Hey folks, welcome back to True Crime Stories, where we cover the most thrilling true crime stories. Before we get going, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for me. Thanks. And now let's get into today's story.
Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive. This one takes us to Harbor's Cove.
Harbor's Cove. Ah, yes.
Picture a charming coastal town in the early 2000s. Quaint shops, salty air, that tight-knit community vibe. But like, every town has its secrets, right?
Oh, absolutely. Especially those seemingly perfect ones.
And in Harbor's Cove, those secrets are about to unravel in a big way. We're diving into the death of Claire Mills.
The local artist.
Beloved local artist, actually. Found dead after their annual harvest festival.
Sounds suspicious already. Festivals, can get a little wild.
Initially, it seemed like a tragic accident. Drowning. Open and shut, maybe. But there's always a but, isn't there? As we got deeper into the police reports, the interviews, Claire's personal journals even.
Things got complicated.
Oh, way more than complicated. Let's start with Claire herself. Who was she?
Claire was this vibrant soul, incredibly talented.
Her art career was...
Taking off like a rocket. She was supposed to debut a new collection at the Harvest Festival.
Really?
There were even whispers about her getting featured in some prestigious city gallery. So, yeah, things were looking up for her.
Until they weren't. Someone wanted her out of the picture.
It seems that way.
So let's talk suspects. Who had a motive?
Well, first up, we have Marissa Hargrove, another artist in town. They had this rivalry going on.
The classic jealousy angle.
Exactly. Marissa saw Claire as a threat, plain and simple.
Was there any proof of that? Like, did they ever have any public arguments or...
Oh, yeah. Several. The police reports detail a few heated exchanges.
Public and private.
Both. Marissa wasn't shy about her, let's say, dislike for Claire.
Okay, so we've got one suspect with a motive. Anyone else on the radar?
Let's move on to Max Sailor Thompson, local fisherman.
Sailor Thompson. Okay, that's a name that sticks with you. What's his story?
Bit of a troubled past. A few run-ins with the law.
Rough around the edges.
You could say that. He was known for his temper, too, and his connection to Claire was, well, complicated.
Complicated.
He was trying to rebuild his life in Harbor's Cove, right? Trying to shake off that bad reputation.
Redemption arc. I like it.
Claire was one of the few who actually believed in him, defended him even.
So a bit of loyalty there. Interesting.
But loyalty can be a fickle thing, can't it?
Especially when you factor in his history.
Exactly.
All right, 2 down. Who else is in this mix?
Mayor Harold Jenkins. You can't forget about him.
The mayor. What would he have to do with any of this?
He was very image conscious.
You mean obsessed with keeping Harbor's Cove squeaky clean?
Exactly. And any scandal, especially involving someone like Claire, would tarnish that image.
So he might have wanted to control the narrative.
Possibly. Power can be a dangerous thing, you know?
Okay, artistic rivalry, a troubled past, and a mayor with a reputation to protect. This is already quite a lineup. Anyone else the police were looking into?
Oh, there's more. Ellie Sermon, Claire's ex-partner.
The ex, huh? Always a suspect.
Their breakup was pretty recent. And messy.
Messy how?
Sudden, for one. And Ellie was, let's say, not handling it well.
The heartbroken ex. Another classic.
But there are hints their relationship was rockier than they let on.
Ooh, juicy.
Arguments, whispers of a restraining order, it definitely wasn't a clean break.
Okay, so we've got 4 suspects with their own tangled relationships with Claire. What about the physical evidence? What did they find?
Well, the autopsy confirmed drowning as the cause of death.
That seems pretty straightforward.
Not quite. There was significant bruising on Claire's wrists.
Defensive wounds.
Possibly. And abrasions on her forearms, too.
So maybe not so straightforward after all, like she was fighting back.
Exactly. And just to add another layer of intrigue,
Hit me.
multiple sets of footprints near the water's edge, some unidentified.
Mysterious footprints, always a good sign.
Right. And then there's the Harvest Festival itself.
What about it?
It was a big event. The whole town was there celebrating, everyone mingling, drinking, enjoying themselves.
Sounds like the perfect cover for something sinister to happen.
Exactly. Lots of noise, lots of distractions. Easy to slip away unnoticed.
So, where was Claire last seen? And what were our suspects up to that night?
Witnesses last saw Claire walking away from the main festivities, heading towards the quieter area by the water.
Alone?
It seems so, but with so much going on, it's hard to say for sure.
And what about our suspects?
Well, Marissa claims she went home right after the festival, even had a couple of friends back up her story.
A little too convenient, maybe?
Maybe. There's a gap in her timeline, though. Plenty of time to have gone somewhere else.
Like down by the water?
It's possible. Now, Sailor, as you recall, his boat was docked in the very cove where they found Claire's body.
Right, right. And he said he was.
Sound asleep on his boat all night, oblivious to everything.
But no one to back up his story.
Nope, just him and the sea.
Interesting. What about Mayor Jenkins? Was he, holding court at the festival all night?
He says he was mingling, enjoying the festivities, but his account's pretty vague.
So maybe he wasn't as visible as he claims.
Maybe. It's all very rehearsed, like he's being careful not to say too much.
That is suspicious. What about Ellie Sermon? Any chance she snuck out to see Claire that night?
Ellie claims she was working on a freelance project at home. Even has phone records to prove it.
So, a solid alibi.
Seemingly. But Clara, the lead detective, wasn't entirely convinced.
Why not? What didn't add up?
Her demeanor during the interview, it was off. 1 minute calm and collected, the next. Tears, like she was wrestling with something.
Guilt, maybe. Even if she wasn't physically at the festival, she could still be involved somehow.
That's what Clara was thinking.
Okay, so we have 4 suspects with shaky alibis and plenty of reasons to want Claire gone. But what about this Guardians of the Cove group? They're still a bit of a mystery.
They are very secretive. When questioned, they were a wall of silence.
Really? Nothing at all.
Practically nothing. Evasive about Claire, their group, everything. More concerned with protecting their secrets than helping with the investigation.
Sounds like they had something to hide.
Oh, I'd say so. But the question is what?
Okay, so we've got a tangled web of suspects, a town full of secrets, and a detective who's not giving up. What happens next?
Now we delve into the heart of the investigation. The interviews, the forensic evidence, the moments that finally bring the truth to light.
This is where things get really good. Stick around. We'll be back to uncover what really happened to Claire Mills. All right, we're back and ready to dig deeper into the mystery of Claire Mills. Last time, we left off with a whole bunch of suspects, each with their own motives and shaky alibis.
Right. And now we get to dive into the nitty-gritty of the investigation, starting with those interview transcripts. They can be so revealing, can't they? Those little slips of the tongue, the hesitations.
Oh, absolutely. Words spoken in moments of stress can tell us a lot. So let's start with Marissa Hargrove. She was the one who had that public argument with Claire at the festival, right?
Yeah.
The one who wasn't exactly hiding her jealousy.
Yeah. So in her interview, she admitted to the argument, but tried to downplay it. Just a difference of artistic opinion, nothing serious. She claims she went back to her booth after and never saw Claire again.
But we know there's that gap in her timeline, right?
Exactly. And that's where things start to get interesting. When Clara, the detective, started asking about her whereabouts after the festival, well, let's just say Marissa got a little flustered.
Did her story fall apart?
You can see it in the transcript. She gets nervous, hesitant, her voice starts trembling. But then there are these moments of defiance, almost like she's daring Clara to prove she did it.
Is it genuine indignation or just a really good act?
It's hard to tell. Guilt and bravado can look awfully similar sometimes.
Okay, that's Marissa. What about Sailor Thompson? He seemed to genuinely care about Claire, but he also had that shady past and no one to back up his alibi. What did he have to say for himself?
Surprisingly, he was very cooperative, almost too eager to help, He talked about how close he was to Claire, how she was one of the few people who believed in him, kept insisting he was on his boat all night, sound asleep.
But he was alone, right? No one to corroborate his story?
Nope. And Clara definitely picked up on that. She pressed him for details, especially about his interactions with Claire in the days leading up to the festival.
And how did he react to that?
He started getting agitated, like he was trying really hard to keep his cool, but the pressure was getting to him.
So, cracks in the facade. What about Mayor Jenkins? Did he stick to his story about mingling with the festival goers all night?
Oh, he did. Kept emphasizing how important it was for the town to have a good image, how this whole thing could reflect badly on Harper's Cove. But there's not a lot of specifics in his account. It's all very vague, almost like he was trying to avoid saying anything that could be used against him.
So, more deflection than actual information. Classic politician move. What did Clara make of that?
She noticed he was sweating, even though he was trying to act all calm and collected. And that constant talk about the town's image, it made her wonder if he was more worried about protecting himself than finding out the truth.
Interesting. 3 suspects down, all with stories that seemed to crumble under scrutiny. What about Ellie Sermon? Did her alibi hold up?
Well, remember, she says she was working at home, her phone records checked out, she was on a work call during the festival.
So she's in the clear.
Maybe, but something about her just felt off to Clara.
What do you mean?
It's the way she talks about Claire. It's all over the place. One minute she's composed, talking about work and deadlines. Then the next minute she's breaking down, sobbing about how much she loved Claire.
Maybe it was just grief. Losing someone you love, even if you've broken up, it's got to be tough.
Could be. But Claire had this feeling, like Ellie was holding something back, like she knew more than she was letting on.
Okay, so we have 4 suspects, all with their own secrets and questionable alibis. But what about the Guardians of the Cove? Did they ever open up about what they knew?
Not a chance. They stuck to their code of silence. Refused to give Clara anything. No information about Claire, their rituals, their beliefs. Nothing.
It's almost like they were challenging Clara, isn't it? Like they were saying, you'll never crack us.
Maybe they thought they were untouchable. But Clara wasn't the type to back down from a challenge.
So what did she do? With so many leads and dead ends, where did she even begin?
Well, she decided to focus on the physical evidence. Specifically, the fishing nets they found tangled around Claire's body.
Did they lead anywhere?
They did. After analyzing them, they were able to trace them back to a specific boat.
Whose boat?
Sailor Thompson's.
Whoa, so even though he claimed to be sleeping peacefully on his boat all night, the evidence puts him right there at the scene.
Yep, and that changed everything.
But did it mean he actually killed her? What about those other footprints? Maybe someone else was involved.
Exactly. Clara still had a lot of unanswered questions, so she decided to revisit the crime scene. Sometimes going back with fresh eyes can make all the difference.
And it did, didn't it? She found something.
She did. Hidden among the rocks, she found this small wooden box. It was partially buried in the sand, easy to miss if you weren't looking closely.
What was in it?
Nothing, actually. But it was the box itself that was important. It was carved with these intricate designs. And Clara, she recognized the style.
Wait, she recognized it? As in she knew who made it?
She did. She'd seen similar carvings in Marissa's studio.
Marissa. The one who claimed she went straight home after the festival. But if she was at the crime scene...
It means she lied. And when Clara confronted her about it, well, Marissa's whole story fell apart.
She confessed.
She did. She admitted to following Claire that night, so she was furious, jealous, wanted to confront her one last time, but things got out of hand. They argued, there was a struggle, and she pushed Claire.
And Claire fell into the water.
Yes. It wasn't premeditated. It was a moment of anger, a terrible accident, but an accident that cost Claire her life.
Wow. So all that bravado, the indignation, it was all an act. But if Marissa was responsible, what about Sailor? Where does he fit into all of this?
That's where things get even more complicated. You see, Sailor also confessed. He said he'd seen the whole thing. He'd been on his boat, saw Marissa and Claire arguing.
He witnessed it all and didn't do anything.
He said he was scared, frozen. He'd been drinking and didn't know what to do. By the time he realized how serious it was too late. Claire was already in the water.
So he panicked.
He did. He didn't want to get involved, didn't want anyone to know he was there, so he used his fishing nets to pull Claire's body closer to his boat. Thought he could make it look like an accident.
Oh, wow. And that just made him look even more guilty.
Exactly. It's a classic case of good intentions gone wrong. He was trying to cover up his inaction, but it backfired completely.
So we finally have the answers. Marissa's jealousy led to Claire's death, and Sailor's fear led him to cover it up. But there's still one piece of this puzzle that hasn't been solved right. The Guardians of the Cove. Their silence throughout this whole thing has been unsettling. Did we ever find out what they were hiding? So we know who caused Claire's death. We know who tried to cover it up. But there's still this lingering feeling.
Right. Like we've solved the case, but we haven't uncovered all the secrets.
It all comes back to the Guardians of the Cove. Their silence throughout the investigation was, well, it was pretty deafening.
They were like a closed book. No matter how hard Clara tried, she couldn't get them to open up.
You think they were involved in Claire's death? Like maybe more than we know?
It's hard to say for sure, but remember all those stories about the Guardians, about them protecting something ancient, something hidden beneath the waves.
Yeah, those local legends. You think there could be some truth to them?
Maybe. What if Claire, through her art, stumbled onto something she shouldn't have, something the Guardians wanted to keep buried?
You're saying her death, even though it was an accident, could have been convenient for them.
It's a chilling thought, isn't it? But it does make you wonder how far they would go to protect their secrets.
So even though the case is closed, there are still these unanswered questions, these shadows lurking in the background.
Like the ocean itself, deep, mysterious, and full of hidden depths.
What happened to everyone after all of this? Marissa? Sailor, the Guardians.
Marissa was convicted of manslaughter, sentenced to prison. It's a sad ending, really. A life consumed by jealousy ending in tragedy.
And Sailor, what about him?
He got community service. He was racked with guilt, haunted by his inaction.
It sounds like he was trying to make amends for what happened.
He did a lot of work with marine conservation groups. A fitting tribute to Claire, considering how much she loved the ocean.
Did Harbor's Cove ever recover from all of this? I mean, a tragedy like that has to leave a mark.
I think Claire's death forced the town to face some hard truths. The pressures artists face, the competition, the financial struggles, the emotional toll.
It's not all paintbrushes and beautiful sunsets, is it?
Not always. And Claire's friend Nora, she really stepped up.
What did she do?
She started organizing all these public art programs, using art to help the community heal, to bring people together.
That's amazing, a way to honor Claire's memory and make something positive out of all this darkness.
It was. It showed everyone how powerful art can be, how it can connect us, inspire us, and help us through even the toughest times.
So even with all the unanswered questions, the lingering unease about the Guardians, there's still a sense of hope.
There is. Claire's death was a tragedy, but it also brought about positive change. It reminded everyone about the importance of community, of supporting each other, and of the healing power of art.
It makes you think, doesn't it? About the choices we make, the secrets we keep, and the ripple effects of our actions.
We may never know the full truth about what happened that night in Harbor's Cove, but Claire's story serves as a powerful reminder that even in the smallest towns, darkness can lurk beneath the surface.
And that even when the case is closed, some secrets may remain hidden forever.
Well, listeners, that's our deep dive into the mystery of Claire Mills. We hope you found it insightful, intriguing, and maybe even a little bit unsettling. As always, we encourage you to keep exploring, keep questioning, and never be afraid to delve deeper into the world around you.
Until next time, stay curious.